Good Morning Minnesota with Good Morning America on Channel 5. David Hartman and Joan London introduce you to the people behind the names in the news. Steve Bell gives you the latest world news from Washington. Plus, in-depth features with important information you can use. Make each morning a Good Morning Minnesota with Good Morning America every day at 7 a.m. on Channel 5.
Make it a good day today.
kstp85, St. Paul, Minneapolis.
Now, from Minnesota's leading news station, Cindy Brucato, Dennis Bounds, and the Eyewitness News team, this is Eyewitness News at 5.
And this is Cindy Brucato. In this half hour, at the very latest from Reno, Nevada, where a charter plane en route to the Twin Cities crashed this morning, killing at least 70 people. Thousands of people braved the cold rally at the Minnesota Capitol today in support of financially stricken farmers. While at the nation's capital, the bitter cold forced all inaugural activities indoors for the first time in our country's history. Good afternoon, everyone. Dennis Bounds is the day off. Frank Somerville filling in for him. Frank?
And leading this edition of Eyewitness News, an air disaster in Reno that has killed at least 71 people. This morning, the Galaxy charter flight had just taken off and was returning to the Twin Cities. The people aboard were coming back from a gambling vacation. Correspondent Judd Rose has the details.
Dawn came to Reno, revealing what was left of Flight 203, a mass of scorched and smoldering wreckage ringed by tarpaulins, the plastic sheets covering the bodies of the passengers and crew of the Galaxy charter, which had crashed just after taking off for Minneapolis. The pilot of the charter had reported serious vibrations right after taking off. He asked to return to the airport. Then came the crash. It was bad, but it could have been worse. The Lockheed Electric came down just a mile southwest of downtown Reno on US 395, a major highway, and had just missed a motel. 3 people managed to make their way out of the wreckage.
Coming out of the back of the plane, there was a guy on fire, and he was screaming for us to get him out of the plane. And another guy and I told him to lay down on the ground and roll, and we threw dirt on him trying to get the fire out. And we handed him to somebody else, and there was another guy screaming in the field to get him out of the plane too.
Mark put all the dirt on him and stuff, and there's all his clothes were just, there's nothing left. There's parts hanging from his face and stuff, and he kept screaming, help me, help me. And then a lady came out and put a blanket around him, and we took him off away from the thing. Luckily, because if we had left him there, he would have been right there when there was that second explosion.
One of the survivors was flown to a Las Vegas burn center. The other 2 were also badly hurt, and 4 people on the ground were injured, none of them seriously. A team from the National Transportation Safety Board is at the scene to begin an investigation of this crash, the tragic ending to a Super Bowl junket. Judd Rose, ABC News, Reno.
Eyewitness News reporter Dave Andrews is in Reno right now. He's on the phone with us. He will be live via News Star at the end of this newscast, but right now a phone report. Dave, can you please update us from what we've just seen in that videotape?
I can, Cindy. At this hour here at the crash scene, investigators locally and the special team from the National Transportation Safety Board are now still undergoing the very grim task of sifting through the debris here at the crash site. Some of the bodies remain here on the crash site. The destruction was so devastating that many of the bodies were burned beyond recognition, and many have not been removed from the site. Those that have been sent to a temporary morgue, which has been set up at a state fairgrounds about 4 miles here from the scene. Now, the information we have is that 69 people were killed, 69 people of the 72 on board. Those surviving, according to the latest information we have, are a father and son from St. Paul named George Lamson and George Lamson Jr., and a Robert Miggins from the Twin Cities, the exact city not unknown. Those people are being treated. The younger Lamson, the 17-year-old, is apparently in relatively good condition. His father is in very critical condition, being treated at a hospital here in Reno. Robert Miggins has been transported to a burn center in Las Vegas, where he is suffering from burns over 80% of his body. It is a very grim sight here. The devastation was incredible. It is very fortunate that the plane did not crash into a series of apartment buildings. It must have gone right over them and landed within several yards of the buildings. There were 4 people apparently hurt on the ground, but those apparently were minor injuries. As far as we know at this point. It's still sifting through the debris right now.
All right, Dave, again, we hope to have you live via News Star 5 at the end of this newscast about 5:25, and we'll get further details from you.
We'll be here.
Okay, thanks. Those who witnessed the crash, of course, say it was a nightmare, a scene really not to be believed.
But the nightmare was just as gruesome for the people who came to the Hubert Humphrey International Charter Terminal looking for answers. Debbie Enblum has been there since early this morning and has just returned to tell us about the situation there. Debbie, what's the report?
Well, Frank, it was a nightmare at the charter terminal. Many people drove there hoping to find out whether their friends or family members were alive or dead. But nobody from Galaxy Charters was there to greet them. The only representative available was from Pave Airjet. Now, that's the company that provides ticketing and ground service.
2 widows and a mother I'm trying to take care of right now. We have sons and daughters and families here that have been killed. Let's get somebody from the airlines or FAA helping these people. That's why we're here. We've got to get this taken care of.
Many drove to the terminal, only to be handed a phone number to try to call and instructed to go home to wait. 12, 13, 14 hours after the crash, and people still clung to the hope that maybe their friends or family didn't board that plane.
You know, we know 99.9% sure that my parents were on the flight and, you know, were killed in the wreckage, but until we know for sure, we're just going to be on hold, and that's why I want to head out of here and get to a place where I can be reached for a phone call from the FBI when they have that information.
Worried relatives and friends of about 20 people thought to have been killed waited at the terminal. A chaplain from North Memorial Medical Center was called in. Then a Page representative announced that no one from Galaxy was coming to Minneapolis. And by 4 o'clock, the only people waiting in the terminal were those leaving Minneapolis on other charter flights.
No, they're not letting us know anything until they reach my family, my mother and their children.
Is she from here?
No, we're from Ortonville, Minnesota, which is in the western part of the state.
The people waiting for answers say their friends and family members that may have been aboard have a variety of occupations and were in Nevada for a variety of reasons. They only hope for some reason that their loved one decided not to fly home. Right?
How do they feel that it took and that it is taking so long to find out?
Obviously very upset, angry, and frustrated, but they're afraid to give out information because they don't want to give the wrong information.
Yeah.
Debbie, could you get a feeling for where these people were from? Are they from the Twin Cities Metro?
St. Paul, Minneapolis, Wilmer,
were on the charter.
all over the state. Yeah, many of them.
Well, right now at the airport, I should say rather this morning, and in fact for most of the day, the relatives of the survivors were trying to grab a plane to head out to Reno. That was, as Dave Andrews mentioned, a Lamson family who survived. Adrienne Lanson's husband and son are both hospitalized. George Lamson had to undergo surgery. He is listed in critical condition, but her son, George Lamson Jr., is listed in satisfactory condition. The two had been on a weekend skiing trip at Lake Tahoe. Lamson's son says he's doing fine, but he can't remember much about the crash.
He said it happened so fast. I mean, he really couldn't give me a good account of it. He said he was up in the air and then they were down. That's all he remembers.
Mrs. Lamson says she is still trying to put all the pieces together, but feels very fortunate that her son and her husband are still alive. As we mentioned at that point, those two are 2 of 3 survivors from that crash, at least what we have right now. 2 other major stories we're following today on Eyewitness News at 5. We will have a live report from Washington on President Reagan's second inauguration conducted inside the Capitol.
And outside the state capitol in St. Paul, thousands rally for a group of Americans suffering through tough economic times, the farmers.
It's January boat show time again at the Minneapolis Auditorium, and the place to be to preview all the new 85 boating equipment. So be the first to see the new cruisers, runabouts, pontoons, fishing boats, canoes, and sailboats of all sizes, plus motors, lifts, docks, and accessories. Remember, if it floats, it's on display at the boat show. Minneapolis Auditorium, January 23rd through the 27th. So come on down.
I want it strong, but I want it good.
Introducing Maragor Bold from Taster's Choice. For those who like their coffee bold. Because it's made with the larger, more flavorful coffee beans like the giant Maragor GP bean. Bold, big, bold flavor. Because it's dark roasted for a superior, stronger gourmet choice. New Maragor Bold and Bold decaffeinated.
Yeah.
2 bold new reasons why the choice for taste is Taster's Choice.
In the land of Dairy Queen.
Come
Come on in for our hamburger full meal deal. Only $1.69. Everything you want in a complete meal. A thick, juicy, tender home-style burger that looks, cooks, and tastes like homemade. Crisp golden fries, your favorite soft drink, and a creamy smooth 5-ounce Dairy Queen sundae. The hamburger full meal deal. Now only $1.69 at Dairy Queen.
We treat you right. We're a small town, homegrown, made the way you make your own pizza. Tombstone. We're a ladle down and loaded up with lots of mozzarella on the pizza. Tombstone.
We pile on the goodness, we're loaded with real cheese.
We're sure the taste of Tombstone's gonna please your families. We're a small town, homegrown, made the way you make your own pizza. Tombstone, made the way you make your very own. Tombstone.
Our other major story of the day concerns the Minnesota farmer who says he and she needs help. Well, today farmers took that message to the state capitol, where Stan Turner is standing by live to give us further details. Good afternoon, Stan.
Good afternoon, Cindy. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, even by the most conservative estimates, some 10,000 people gathered at noontime just a few steps away from here on the approach of the state capitol today. It was one of the largest, if not the largest, farm rallies in recent memory. Groundswell, that's the grassroots organization born of Minnesota's agricultural community, sponsored the rally. Organizers had hoped for more people, but they say the message to local and state lawmakers should have been clear. Reaction from legislators was supportive, and according to at least one rally organizer, definitely not just lip service.
I don't think it would do them any good anyway. The political rhetoric, it just doesn't hold up anymore when the tens of thousands of people have to come and address their leaders and ask for economic and social relief. And the people are going to be back. They're going to hold these people accountable.
Well, farmers at today's rally gave lawmakers a list of 10 demands, changes that would help the farmers' situation financially. Governor Perpich said that he'll do all that he can, but admits the state needs support from the federal government to effect lasting changes. Well, we all know it to be a fact that the farm economy these days certainly has seen better days, much better days. It would be no exaggeration to say that perhaps things are easily as bad on the farm these days since the Great Depression. It's really, really bad and getting worse. Now, the thousands who rallied here today at the state capitol are concerned about those severe financial problems that afflict our local farmers. Our money specialist, Greg Stone, tells us just what those troubles are.
Farmers all across the state have one basic problem. Often they can't sell crops for prices high enough to cover production costs like fertilizer, seed, fuel, and so on. Take corn as an example. The average cost in Minnesota has been $3.40 a bushel lately, but local farmers can't sell it for that much. The closest they came was $3.23, and that was last June. Another problem that cripples the farm economy is debt, and Minnesota farmers rank 5th in the nation in that category. That's part of the reason why State Agriculture Commissioner Jim Nichols says 13,000 of the 100,000 farmers here may end up selling out in the next 2 years, and not necessarily voluntarily.
Well, voluntary is a relative thing, you know. The farmer comes into the banker and he says, Mr. Banker, I need a loan so I can plant the crop. The banker says, listen, prices are low, interest is high, I don't think I'm going to make you this loan. I suggest you have a farm sale.
Most farmers have two types of loans outstanding: a mortgage on the land and debts for the day-to-day expenses of running the farm. And here in Minnesota, there's $5 billion of each.
Unfortunately, the typical farmer has less and less to borrow against these days. From 1981 to 1984, overall equity per farm dropped $77,000 on average, and land values alone plummeted $57,000 in the same period.
Despite all these troubles, most farmers don't appear to be giving up.
The thing of it is, if you're born there and raised there and your family's there and you've done it all your life, you don't want to leave.
Still, Nichols says that 60% of the farmers here have another source of income. Maybe they're just hedging their bets against the possibility of failure. Greg Stone, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
Well, these farmers and their supporters did make a lot of noise here today. It was an orderly crowd. They did get a lot of attention from the media and certainly from the lawmakers, which is what they want most of all. And we'll have a more complete report for you tonight at 6 o'clock, Cindy. I'll see you then.
Stan, is the crowd pretty much dispersed at this point, and are they going on to any further rally activities?
Well, insofar as outside the Capitol, they're all gone. But I've noticed here in some of the legislative hearing rooms, Cindy, there still are farmers here and still being heard by the lawmakers.
All right, we'll check with you at 6.
Okay.
Thanks, Stan.
Thanks a lot, Stan. We'll be back with a story making national and world headlines, the second inauguration of President Reagan, and why the streets of Washington were empty.
If you think this bank offers you a no-fee Visa or MasterCard with checking like First Federal does, think again. This place, they don't even offer free checks like First Federal. And at a local bank, you probably won't get all the extra checking services First Federal offers. In fact, if you think you can find a checking account that gives you more for your money than our money market checking, don't bank on it. First Federal. Check with us and get your money's worth.
Here at Towsley Ford Subaru, we're off to a fast start on our 1985 goal of 10,000 sales. Now, the only way to sell this tremendous volume is with our #1 in the Northland prices that we believe no other dealers will come near on special purchases like this. Over 1,000 front and four-wheel drives, Bronco 2s, Broncos, pickups, front-wheel drive Escorts, Tempos, EXPs, Subarus, all with fast start prices clearly marked. Wherever you live in the Northland, it'll be worth your trip to Towsley Ford Subaru, White Bear Lake.
Don't try to slow me down. I'm going for cattle company tonight. Well, it's a steak worth going for, tender and done just right. 'Cause when I'm going for steak and I'm going for fun, oh, cattle company is the one. Going for cattle company tonight.
I'm Stuart Anderson. My ranching experience means we can serve a great top sirloin dinner for just $7.95. It's a steak worth going for.
Go for cattle company tonight.
You know, on a usually quiet news day, for example, on a Monday, just the weather story alone would be enough to make big headlines, from what it did here over the weekend to what it's doing now out on the East Coast. Dennis?
Well, if you take one quick glance at the sky, it doesn't look any different from when we had a brutal cold wave that started out last Thursday and last Friday. Afternoon satellite photograph shows crystal clear skies all through Minnesota and western Wisconsin, but the big key has been the dramatic change in the temperature. Yes, sir, that is certainly more like it. Temperatures have moderated into the low 20s, and even up in International Falls and up around Duluth, where they couldn't get any warmer than 26 degrees below zero on Saturday, are now well into the teens, and temperatures will continue very moderate over the next couple of days. At 5 o'clock here in the Twin Cities, the airport temperature is at 23 degrees. I never thought I'd see the day where 23 looked good. The dew point is 9 below, humidity 54%. We still have that pesky northwest wind, though, at 24, gusting to 35. The wind chill right now is still a little bit below zero. And the pressure's steady at 30.09 inches. As we mentioned, it's clear. The big Arctic air mass continues across the weather map, but the main chunk of the air is shifted onto the southeast. There's another high behind it, but this is the air mass we talked about on Friday, which was going to come off the north and actually warm us up. And indeed, that has happened. But the big story, as you mentioned, continues to be the sliding of the cold air into the eastern half of the country. And temperatures this afternoon have been unbelievable. In fact, at 3 o'clock this afternoon, the entire eastern half of the country was below freezing, and the southern boundary of that is from Dallas to New Orleans, all the way over to Disney World. At 2 o'clock this afternoon, it was 32 degrees in Orlando. Now, the weather map for tomorrow shows us continuing to be in pretty good shape. Lots of sunshine thanks to that area of high pressure continuing, and we expect temperatures to continue in the 20s in Minnesota and up through the Dakotas, teens up in the Arrowhead section. A deck of clouds to the south is the beginnings of an area of low pressure, which is going to have a band of snow with it, but it looks like the main chunk of that is going to pass on to the east, and we're going to continue to moderate. The KSTP forecast for tonight in detail calls for clear skies. It'll be a little windy, but not as cold as it's been, with lows of 5 to 10 above, with a northwest wind of 15 to 25. For tomorrow, look for a continuation of partly cloudy skies, still breezy. Highs like today at 21 to 26. Winds will be west at 10 to 20 miles per hour. If you're planning on traveling tonight or early tomorrow morning, be careful. Travelers advisories are out to the northwest of us. That's because of blowing snow. But other than that, things are a whole lot better than they were just a couple of days ago.
It was one of the most remarkable weather experiences I've ever had.
We have some real interesting statistics on that coming up at 6.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Thank
Thanks
you,
a lot.
Dennis. Oh, lousy weather, of course, is not all that unusual in Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Day.
It sure isn't. Snow, rain, or bitter cold has accompanied 20 of the nation's 49 Inauguration days. But today was the first time ever that every outdoor event has been canceled. The cold weather stopped the parade, and the ceremony itself was moved inside the Capitol Rotunda. The president's motorcade whisked through empty streets from the White House to the Capitol. Inside, only family, close friends, and government officials were allowed to witness the swearing-in live. Everyone else had to watch it on TV. Now, Vice President Bush took his oath of office first, then it was the president's turn. Afterward, in his inaugural address, Reagan said he accomplished the new beginning he promised 4 years ago. And today, he called for a new American emancipation.
And more people are employed than ever before in our history. We are creating a nation once again, vibrant, robust, and alive. But there are many mountains yet to climb. We will not rest until every American enjoys the fullness of freedom, dignity, and opportunity as our birthright. We must not repeat the well-intentioned errors of our past. We must never again abuse the trust of working men and women by sending their earnings on a futile chase after the spiraling demands of a bloated federal establishment. You elected us in 1980 to end this prescription for disaster, and I don't believe you re-elected us in 1984 to reverse course.
The inaugural parade was called off because of the weather, so the Reagans joined an indoor celebration. In a moment, that story, along with a report on some disappointed Minnesotans who were supposed to be part of the parade, in a live report via News Star 5. That's next.
This is Michigan, where fresh, clean snow quietly blankets the memories of seasons past, where an aura of excitement drifts freely in the crisp, sparkling air, where trails twist and turn through frosted forests spirited with life, where white carpeted hills glide forever and sunsets last a lifetime. This is Michigan in winter.
Yes, Michigan.
There's nothing like a warm welcome to make you feel right at home. Now Midwest Federal has a special warm welcome waiting for savers. Gifts to take the chill out of winter, to give your house a warm touch. Gifts that are practical and oh so useful on cold Minnesota days. Why not save where you get more? At Midwest Federal. Personal service and always a warm welcome. At the good tree to come to for shelter. Midwest Federal.
They're still partying right now in Washington, D.C., and part of that party, members of a high school band from Princeton, which unfortunately got aced out today. Government specialist Lindsay Strand has more in this live report from Washington via News Star 5. Lindsay, those poor kids.
Cindy, good evening. A very chilly good afternoon here from Washington, D.C. The temperature here in Washington at noontime, that was the time the president was scheduled to be sworn in, was 9 degrees. And the inaugural official said that was proof, in fact, that it was a good decision to cancel the outside activities here today. Today was supposed to be the big day, of course, as you know, for the Princeton, Minnesota High School Band, but the weather changed all of that. Instead of being able to perform today, band members had to settle for a different set of circumstances. Inside the 4-H Center, it looked like the 128 members of the Princeton, Minnesota High School Band were about to embark on the performance of their lives. They had all been practicing and rehearsing for months to perform in today's inaugural parade. But frigid temperatures forced the parade's cancellation, a first since the days of George Washington. Most of the band members took the news hard.
Disappointment was a major thing. We had worked so hard and come so far. It was like a dream that was just suddenly shattered in minutes. That's just how quickly it happened.
Our stomachs dropped, and we just went, no, that's not true. So we went around and asked all the chaperones, and they said, yeah,
the parade was canceled, and we're just going, no, it's not. It can't be. Because we worked so hard to get here, and they said, no, you can't do it.
With instruments in hand, band members loaded buses for an alternative event, a gathering of all parade participants at the Capitol Center outside of Washington. The president himself would be there to thank them for their hard work. As band members tried to make the best of the situation, the band director, Ron Moulton, agreed with the cancellation.
I agree with their decision. We were out marching around at 5 o'clock, and even from Minnesota, used to the weather, and we were very prepared. The wind chill was unbearable.
And it is not too windy here tonight, but it is still very cold. And this evening, however, the big activities will be inside, and we will be live later this evening with the big event, the ball. Back to you in the studio. Cindy?
Okay, thanks, Lindsay. We'll check with you later. And we will be back with a few more items for you in just a minute.
This shredding is hard work.
When you finish the cheddar, shred the mozzarella, taco cheese, Colby, and Monterey Jack.
At Sargento, we do the shredding, you do the cooking. We've taken blocks of our delicious natural cheese and taken the work out. For the most varieties and sizes of shredded natural cheese, look for Sargento.
This work does have its rewards.
I saw that. The persnickety cheese people from Plymouth, Wisconsin.
If you're interested in earning more than a paycheck, the Century 21 system announces a week of opportunity. Mark your calendar now for career sessions. Find out why we're #1, the best-known professionals in the business. Find out about our career track training, one of the most comprehensive programs in real estate. Call the Century 21 office nearest you and make a date with your future.
We're #1 to work for you. Century 21.
Don't miss Twin Cities and Mankato area career sessions now through January 27th.
Well, it has been an absolutely amazing day in the news, and there have also been some interesting developments in sports.
Certainly have, and this one, though, has been talked about for some time. Herb Brooks to the Minnesota North Stars. Well, that's a personnel move that's been rumored for a long time, and with today's announcement that the Rangers have fired Brooks as their coach and replaced him with general manager Craig Patrick, that talk is starting to heat up all over again. Brooks, that is, had served as the Rangers head coach since 1981, but in 3.5 seasons behind the Big Apple's bench, Brooks' team never lived up to the expectations of his gold medal winning ways of 1980. This year, the Rangers fell to 5th place in the Patrick division and have won only 15 times in their first 45 games. Herb's contract with the Rangers expired at the end of the season, so naturally there had been a great deal of speculation that he would not return. It's no secret that Minnesota is Herb's home. In fact, his family has continued to live here while Herb was working in New York. As for Brooks joining the North Stars, General Manager Lou Nanne told me today he would not hesitate to add Brooks to his staff. That is, if Herb is interested. Louis made it clear that Glenn Sonmore is his coach, and even though Herb's forte is coaching the North Star, that is, his forte is coaching, the North Stars would welcome Brooks as a coordinator of scouting and development. Asked how soon that could happen, Louis said whenever Herb wants it to. Super Bowl 19 didn't turn out to be a super matchup after all, but you won't hear any complaints from the people in San Francisco. The 49ers, of course, dominated Miami yesterday to win their second world championship since 1982. This time the final was San Francisco over the Dolphins by a count of 38-16. A lot of folks were looking for a big game for Miami quarterback Dan Marino, and Marino did complete 9 of his first 10 passes, including this short touchdown pass to New Hope's native Dan Johnson. After that, however, the 49er defense kept Marino in check, and San Francisco quarterback Joe Montana took control of the football game. Montana was a dual threat yesterday. He rushed for 59 yards with 1 touchdown. A great job on the ground. That Montana also was very effective through the air. He completed 24 of 35 passes for a Super Bowl record of 331 yards and 3 scores. No wonder he was named the game's most valuable player. Montana was also the MVP when the 49ers won back in 1982. Needless to say, the celebration began in San Francisco about the time the gun went off in Palo Alto, and it is still in progress. Today, 500,000 people lined Market Street in downtown San Francisco for a parade honoring the champs. Incidentally, Montana and Marino will meet again next Sunday at the Pro Bowl. Of course, that's right here on Channel 5 next Sunday. That's it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ron.
Okay, let's go live now to Reno, Nevada for the latest on that plane crash that killed approximately 70 people. Dave Andrews standing by live via News Star 5. Dave?
Cindy, here at the crash scene about 2 miles south of the Reno International Airport, Nevada officials have been joined today by investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board. They right now about 200 yards behind me, as you can see some of the debris possibly on the street. They're going through the grim task of removing many of the bodies which still remain here. The crash was so devastating that many of the bodies were burned beyond recognition. Those that have been removed have been taken to a temporary mortuary about 4 miles here from the scene. Now, the latest information we have is that 69 of the 72 people aboard were killed. 3 people, a father and son from St. Paul and another Twin Cities man about 40 years old, have apparently survived the crash, but the 2 elder people are in very seriously critical condition. One has been taken to a burn unit in Las Vegas. The 17-year-old man who did survive this is apparently in very good condition. Miraculously, he was thrown from the plane in his seat, and the seat landed on this street behind me. Somehow he escaped without any serious injury. His relatives are now en route to Reno, where they will be meeting with him at the local hospital. In about 20 minutes, officials here say they will update the media as to the latest information they have about the cause of this accident. It may be some time, however, before that is known. Back to you.
David, the crash has now occurred about approximately 14 hours ago, and at this point, because of no passengers' names being released, there's still so many people here in the Twin Cities who are so concerned about everything. Is this about, doesn't this seem to be an unusually long delay for the release of passenger names, the recent release of information?
It is somewhat of a chaotic situation here. We're going to have to wait for the officials to give us the official word on who the victims are. Without that, we do not want to give out any names, of course.
Okay, we will see you live again at 6 o'clock. Right now, more on this event out in Reno and other news events of the world going on to ABC. Good afternoon.
We'll see you.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
Jennings.